What is the biggest misconception that MMA fans and fighters have to the world of sports entertainment and professional wrestling?
I think a very big misconception would be that it's all theatrics. But in my case, I was raised in the combat.
Yeah.
Mixed martial arts came after I was born.
Yeah.
So I was already doing boxing. I was already doing karate. I was already doing other stuff when MMA came about. I was doing freestyle wrestling. But the thing is, the roots of each sport are the same.
Yeah.
The delivery is different. But I think that's the biggest misconception. But you've seen WWE superstars cross over to UFC and become the heavyweight champions.
Yeah.
You've seen MMA superstars cross over to wrestling or WWE and make a good living. So I don't think we're that different.
Yeah.
I just think the delivery is different.
I would just say a big misconception in general that some people have is that, are we athletes? And 100% we are athletes. And I come from a background where I didn't really watch WWE growing up, right? So when I got into WWE, I didn't know what to expect. I may have had some of the same misconceptions, but now that I'm in it, I understand it. And, we are out there doing amazing feats of strength. We are picking people up. I'm on the top rope doing 450s. We don't have an off season. So we're on the road all the time. We're on live TV. So what we do, when we're doing promos, we don't have a teleprompter, but we're athletes, and I come from a world of being an athlete, and now coming in, I can really speak true to that we are athletes, and we are the full package here in WWE.
I mean, I don't know what era we think we're still in, but a lot of people still use, we'll just call it the F word, to describe what we do. And it's just truly not. I mean, I've done both, trust me. I've been at the highest level of both ends. I've wrestled in the Olympic Games and I've wrestled at WrestleMania. And trust me, this is one of the most, if not the most physical thing I've ever done. I wake up every day just like achy, sore, the same way I did when I was amateur wrestling. The training, for me at least, is no different. I train every day, year round.
That all of it's fake. I'm telling you now, it's not. It's not. It's not all fake. Obviously, fans are wise. Predetermined things are what we do. But for me, because of that, wrestling's fake. We've had to just, like what you said about matching MMA, we have had to up our game a little bit. And when you're going in there and you're getting punched, you're getting punched. Yeah. It's no. We're not fake now. If somebody busts their nose, that
I'll
is
get a wee
real.
black eye under this makeup right now.
Yeah, you do. But for me, yep, predetermined and all that. But the fact that we can make people go out there, and even though they know it's predetermined, still lose that oh my God, and forget that for a second and forget everything that's happening in life, and they can still enjoy it. That's what gives me the buzz to do this. Is you'll still pay attention, so I need to make it believable. I need to do a good job enough that you're like, oh my God, when something happens. So
when I was amateur wrestling, the stress of winning every weekend and hey, this guy's number 2 seed, 1st seed, got to beat him for the tournament. It's different in that aspect. When you go and perform, you have a game plan. All of a sudden I get out there, I get really, really excited. So then whatever we plan on doing or our call out there, it kind of becomes even more because of the people. So the people give me more energy. And obviously we have that, we call it the addiction, that performing. I never got that amateur wrestling. Amateur wrestling was just all business, come on, take them down, you know what I mean? And come on, big guys, score already, all right? It's when you go out there, there's nothing better than performing out there in front of a live crowd. And I just say it's way the same way if you're MMA, you're fighting in front of a crowd, but again, you're only getting that rush if you're winning. If you're losing, baby, you gotta walk out of the cage with your head down. This is no matter win or lose, you get that same reaction of man, we put on a show.
But it's funny is that you're starting to see theatrics in MMA too. Yeah. The most successful MMA fighters are characters to an extent. They play sort of a gimmick at times, So I think that's funny. They've borrowed from professional wrestling. Over and over again. Yeah, over and over again. So yeah, there are similarities. It's just like he said, he summed it up perfectly. The delivery is just a little bit different. Sure. And now myself, I have a newfound respect. I've dabbled now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and catch wrestling over the last 2 years. trained with like Eric Paulson, Eli Knight, people like that. So I have a newfound respect for it. And yeah, I think as time goes on, you're going to see more kind of hybrid style of MMA and professional wrestling. I think it's only the beginning. We're seeing it just starting now, but I think it's going to be a bigger thing in the future.
I think they expect it to be just like MMA.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference there. A lot of what we do is, obviously there's storylines involved. There's still the athleticism. There's still a lot of things that involve, injuries and everything that comes with MMA, but it's just different, and I think people just have to accept that it's okay to be different, but at the same time, my husband obviously does a lot of martial arts, and outside of this, I've gotten into Muay Thai. I've been doing Muay Thai for like 3 years now, so it's cool to blend the worlds a little bit where you can add some of those elements into wrestling, but it's not the same.
That's fake, right?
Sure.
We all know what this is, and you'll never hear anybody in the wrestling world claim they can. I take that back because there are a few of us, but very seldom will you hear a professional wrestler claim they could be a UFC champion.
Sure.
And nobody's trying to say that they could. But for some reason, fighters, and I think it's part of the reason fighters are successful at fighting. The fighters you see is because we have this chip on our shoulder to prove to everyone something. And it's not, pro wrestling is not an insult to MMA. And for a whole nother interview at another time, it goes hand in hand, and pro wrestling and MMA have a shared history. So if people just take 10 minutes to Google stuff,
Sure.
they'd understand that they're brothers, MMA and pro wrestling.
What is the biggest misconception that MMA fighters and fans have to the world of sports entertainment and professional wrestling?
That it doesn't hurt. I guess they think that the ring's a trampoline and that the chairs are made out of light aluminum or something. They think, well, because the outcome is predetermined, that it doesn't hurt. But I tell people all the time, you can't fake gravity. And when you have a couple of 250-pound guys tossing each other around, people get hurt. Ken Shamrock famously said that he had more injuries in his professional wrestling career than he's had in his MMA career. So I think that would probably be the biggest thing that, that stuff is fake. Well, it's predetermined, but it still hurts.